Teachers of Reddit, have you ever had a crush on a student? What happened? Removed. I'm a teacher and there are some cute seniors that I have as students. However, if you ever find yourself actually attracted to any of them, a great way to get over that is to just talk with them for a few minutes. That works regardless of age. This explains why I had so many crushes. I barely spoke at all during school. Not me, but a friend of mine is a teacher for high schoolers. When he started, he was only 3 or 4 years older than the seniors 17 to 18 years, so he said it was really awkward having thoughts where a student was attractive because he was a teacher now. He also told me that he often got gifts and love notes from students back then too. Edit. Typo. Got it, guys. My freshman year of high school I was about approximately a year older than most everyone else in my grade, and we got a teacher fresh from college who just turned 21. It was really strange having an educator that had such a small gap in age with us all. She constantly got hit on by a lot of the guys, whether out loud in comments or through lines in essays or other projects. Even the girls in my app class were pressuring her about needing to get pregnant. She got married while in college, so it wasn't like they were talking about having her hook up. Still awkward. Wound up having her for 3 years in a row, freshman, sophomore and junior years, and it drove me freaking crazy. She had no command of the classroom and let us all run over her. I sat back one day and counted how many times she asked/said "nkaj," and it was over 3 dozen times. From then on I never heard anything else she said in lectures apart from that single word. I only caught onto the mannerism when I started watching South Park. It was hilarious at first. It got worse every consecutive year. Edit. Timely subject. Just seen a link on Facebook where a teacher same school I graduated from was booked earlier this week on a 10,000 bond for sexual misconduct with a student. I actually had classes with that teacher while she was a student. I mean, this reminds me of an English teacher I had as a freshman. She was super hot and all the guys knew it. I decided I would be funny and turn in my essay with "you're hot" printed between lines in the tiniest font possible in Word. You could read it if you had a magnifying glass. I look back on it and just cringe. I really embarrassed myself that day, although I never heard anything from it. Edit. Well, this turned into my highest rated comment. Interesting. Dude, if only you had said "you're hot," then it totally could have worked. I thought one of my college profs had a crush on me. I definitely had a crush on him. Then one day he said, "Sarah, I have to tell you something." I braced myself for a sexy professor college makeout sesh. "You look just like my sister." Homp homp. Maybe he's into that kind of thing. I did attend college in Westeros. Citadel represent. Former student here. Throw away for obvious reasons. So, I actually have a story related to this. I actually pursued a relationship with a teacher. My senior year of high school I was a teacher aide for one of our biology teachers. I had an easy schedule and spent a lot of my free time helping her out in her classes. She had divorced her husband a few years back and pretty much never talked about it. She was attractive and very kind. Looking back, it was stupid of me to risk something like that, but my hormones, and I got the courage up to basically ask her if she wanted to hang out. Much to my surprise, she said yes. For the rest of my senior year I would sporadically head to her house and she rode my baloney pony. I never spoke to anyone about it, and we never changed how we acted in school. Still keep in touch to this day. One time at junior high there was a football game that was students versus teachers, and a student crushed a teacher and cracked his ribs. This is the kind of content that I came to this thread for. Nice try, FBI. Not today. They would never do such a thing. Wait a minute. Sir, do you mind if I ask you your name, phone number, and address? Just wondering. I'm my SSN as well, just in case. I had a teacher that ended up hooking up with a student, like days after graduation. I don't think he teaches anymore. I also had a student teacher invite me to a party when I was in high school. That was a nice ego booster. The professors would go to the parties. Oh yeah, they were always the most fun. Michael Scott, a boss is like a teacher, and I'm like the cool teacher, like Mr. Handel. Mr. Handel would hang out with us, and he would tell us awesome jokes. And he actually hooked up with one of the students, and then, like, 12 other kids came forward. It was in all the papers. Really ruined 8th grade for us. I wouldn't say that I ever had a crush. but there are definitely girls that are really attractive and likable. I had a lot of girls, and even a few boys who seemed to have crushes on me, but it doesn't go anywhere, because I wouldn't cross that line. I had one girl walk up to me and say, "I'ma holler at you at the end of the year," and then proceed to bite her lip in a very suggestive way. I didn't even know who the hell that girl was. I had another girl who I absolutely adored come see me on the last day I was leaving the school, but she was not in dress code at all. She was wearing two thin tank tops and the tiniest shorts I've ever seen. It was definitely not dress code approved, but since it was the last day she got away with it. She kept hugging me goodbye and hanging all over me, and I have to admit that I was getting a bit turned on by it. She actually followed me out to my car to say goodbye. And when we parted for the last time there was this agonizing moment of awkwardness where it seemed like she was waiting for me to give her a kiss or something. One time in the cafeteria, after I had just started teaching, I saw this beautiful teacher wearing a tight-fitting wrap dress watching over the lunch line. She looked absolutely poured into that dress, so I had to go talk to her. I went up, introduced myself and we started talking. We flirted a bit while we talked, and things seemed to be going good, because she initiated an arm squeeze on me when I made a joke. We parted after a little bit, and she walked off and sat down at one of the tables with the students. I thought to myself, that's cool, she eats with her students. I'm doing my lunch duty thing, which largely involves standing around, and every once in a while I look over at the hot teacher and we exchange glances and smiles. At this point I figure that I need to find out where her room is so I can drop by later and talk her up some more. I figure I can just tell her I'm going to make copies and see if she needs anything run off while I'm at it. I'm in the middle of talking with one of my students, so I ask them, "What does that lady over there in the dress teach, and where is her room at?" My student simply replies back, "She's in my French class, but I don't know her." At that point it clicks in my head that she's a student, and worse, that I've been flirting with a student throughout lunch. Mortified, I fled the cafeteria and hid in my room. I had another lunch duty the next day, but I couldn't even bring myself to go to it because I was so embarrassed. "I'm dying to know what you look like because you must be hot." She looked absolutely poured into that dress, so I had to go talk to her. I went up, introduced myself and we started talking. Seemed to be going good because she initiated an arm squeeze on me when I made a joke. I wish I could have this level of confidence. Edit. I have received hundreds of replies and messages giving me tips on how to talk to women. I get it. Please stop. What's the worst that could happen? Take a chance. Initiate contact and see where it goes. Unless it's a student, then you could go to prison. This was back in the late 70s, but my aunt started teaching high school right after college. She was 21. Her first year on the job she developed a crush on this high school junior. He was 17 at the time. Anyway, they flirted and hung out after school all the time, and once he turned 18 they started dating. They are now married and have been for 40 years. They think the story is adorable and tell everyone. As a former teaching, I cringe every time I hear it. You are a teaching. He didn't say he was an English teacher. He didn't say he was an English teaching. FDFY. I had the situation in reverse. The student had a huge crush on me. She arranged her classes, free time and extra projects so that we'd always be in the same area or room. As cute as she was, I was consistently careful and professional in my approach, keeping her at arm's length and showing her no more attention than other students. She was tenacious. But rather than embarrass her in front of peers or faculty, I took the long approach, wearing her down incrementally by maintaining appropriate even-handedness despite her overt gestures and expressions. Eventually, it worked. It was taxing for me, but I took satisfaction knowing that I didn't cause her to become the subject of gossip or mean-spirited speculation. Did you tell her not to stand so close to you? In a super catchy tune? Moops, get out the way. You have no clue how much I laughed at this. Someone I know dated their freshman English teacher right after leaving high school. She had a few kids with him. One of those kids is me. Edit. People on the internet are nice. How do you know them? He rented a room off her for approximately 9 months. My grandmother was super poor and couldn't afford to go to school, so from the age of 10 until 16, she sat outside classroom windows every day to learn to read/write in Chinese, which I guess is a longer process than learning phonetic writing systems. She finally earned enough money to pay for some classes and enrolled in a class where all the other students were much younger than her. Ended up marrying the teacher and then had kids who had more kids like me. Funny thing is, she still reads on a daily basis and now knows much more about literature and the world in general than my grandfather. When I graduated high school, I was approached by my English teacher who I had a student/mentor relationship with. Basically he told me that he and his wife had an open relationship and if I would be interested in dating him. He had asked his wife and she was cool about it and everything. It was super weird and I basically ghosted him. He still sends me these super drawn out emails every now and then. Edit. My teacher was not inviting me to join in a three-way. By saying they had an open relationship, I meant that his wife was allowed to see other men and he was allowed to see other women. The extramarital relationships were kept separate. Also, insecure 18-year-old me wouldn't have been down for a three-way anyways. Edit 2 for full story from the comments. When I was a junior, my mother was running away from an abusive relationship. She basically just packed up whatever we could fit in her car and we moved overnight to the neighboring state. I had to leave school in the middle of the year, so it was a rough transition for me. I didn't really fit in with the people at my new school, so I mostly hung out with teachers during lunch. It was a really small inner city high school and most of the teachers were very passionate and invested in the students, so it wasn't uncommon to have closer mentor-like relationships develop. I ended up getting pretty close to my English teacher over the next 2 years, but I always felt like we kept things appropriate. After I graduated, I met up with him as a sort of final goodbye before leaving to college. It was just a confusing and surreal conversation where he basically told me that he didn't want what we had to die out and that he would like to keep seeing each other after graduation. He talked about it as being an enriching experience for the both of us and so on. He and his wife had plans to quit their jobs and leave the country for a few years, so I think he wanted our relationship to be a summer fling type of thing. He told me that he and his wife had an open relationship because they often travel the world and meet all kinds of interesting people. As for if considered going back and giving it a go, I really was torn about that for a long time. He really did live an avant-garde, bohemian sort of lifestyle, and I wondered whether I was missing out on some enriching and unique life experience. Like I said previously, I didn't know how to react, so when I ghosted him, he started sending me all kinds of emails. At first, he was really understanding and would talk about how he would wait and let me process some stuff. Then he started to get kind of passive aggressive and sent stuff like, "Let me know when your therapist says it's okay to meet." Finally, he sent me this really long poem he wrote for me about an archer watching a beautiful lark/woman from a distance and how she was finally set free. I blocked him after that, and last I heard he's already left the country. Sorry for the wall of text, it was just the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me. This one's really creepy. It felt super surreal at the time. Of course, being a teenage girl, I had thought about it before, but when the opportunity arose for something to actually happen between us, I completely panicked, and that's when I ghosted him. I saw him the following year at my sister's graduation and it still felt surreal. Luckily, he isn't teaching anymore. If anyone is interested, I'd be happy to give more details. I've only ever told very close friends about it before, so this is kind of cathartic.